Thanks for tuning in to the Peoplz Dragons. The following presentation is the result of active players in the community who dictate the actions of these characters by way of the Peoplz Dragons interactive RPG game show. If you're enjoying the content, then please like, share, and maybe subscribe. If you want to join in on the action, visit our website at pndrpg.com. Haven City, an ugly city. Episode 3. Trial and Error. Every news channel in Haven has been buzzing about all the strange activity that has been happening lately. Paranormal murder scenes, missing corpses, sightings of UFOs passing through gateways, evil cults, and the biggest current trending headline: giant glowing green gems appearing throughout Haven. It's true. Right this moment, one by one, giant glowing emerald gems are appearing inside of Haven. Some floating in mid-air, such as the one nestled under the Haven's strongest floating tournament arena. Majority of them being of or the entirety of a district landmark. No one really noticed how much of Haven's culture and architecture contain emerald imagery until now, as they all glow and flicker, the clouds in the sky swirling slowly. We see the public standing in awe as another giant green emerald emerges from under the city streets, causing the entire block of buildings to be uprooted and crumble, revealing a giant levitating emerald. We cut to a handsome night-skinned man, Kato V, who has also been trending in the news. Kato V is a renowned night-skinned man with a big following whose family was just recently murdered during an explosion caused by a violent G-type trying to gain recognition from Governor Advocate. This being the last straw, Kato V now opposes Advocate, gaining the same supporters as Tempus, leading the public to wish and hope for Kato and Tempus to join forces. With his long navy blue hair, his thin, fit figure, dressed down in a green suit and tie, Kato V steps up to the podium standing before the people. Kato V has been leading a revolt against Advocate for some time now and has orchestrated numerous aggressive protests. He takes the mic and begins to speak. He explains that he has been inspired by Marid Z and preaches on how Advocate's actions do not represent all night-skinned G-types, and begins to stress the importance of the immediate removal of Advocate, calling for his death. This is an act of treason and immediately triggers law enforcement to mobilize and attempt to arrest Kato. However, Kato was prepared and has his own rebel enforcement and G-types ready to fight and take the city back. This rebel uprising was seemingly out of the blue and rose like a fever overnight, rocking Advocate and his people. Advocate has not lost this much control over the people of Haven ever, as a combination of Tempus's call to action and Kato V's overnight political strike sends Advocate into a frenzy, causing him to incite even more violence. All of Haven is seemingly split as even more social upheaval occurs. We cut to Tempus walking toward the Gate Center entrance while reading an article about this year's Moonrise holiday crime rates being significantly lower in spirit of the Moonrise miracle. A few of Haven's alleged thief lords and aristocratic kingpins came together to commend Jera in the Gate Center's recent feat. Apparently, some loved ones were rescued, and now Tempus has amassed more fans and much love and respect from those in the underground. Tempus tucks away the article when he reaches a small group of new members of the Gate Center awaiting him at the campus entrance for the tour. They appear excited and are growing to love the diverse and homely feel of this place. We see Tempus throughout his day mingling and participating in lectures and exercises in the classrooms. We even see Tempus teaching his own class using material from the Gate Center's successful published book, Gamma Haven Tutorial. He teaches a beginner class on how you need to utilize all of your skills in the field. He talks about using his magician skills and sleight of hand in the field to his advantage. He explains that we cannot be caught up relying solely on our mutant abilities. To the center's more advanced students, Tempus teaches how experimentation and inner focus can grow and expand your gamma mutation. He discusses the importance of narrative and how to use it to unleash the potential of yourself. A student stands up during his lecture and projects breaking news coverage about the giant emeralds onto the wall for everyone to see. Students can be heard whispering about the Emerald Prophecy conspiracy reaching its fruition. We cut to Tempus rushing through the halls toward Amelia's room to check on her. The staff informs him that she is fine and in great care. We then see Tempus sitting at his desk and returning a video message he received from Makai. Tempus sends the news that Amelia is also doing great with no strange happenings or complications. Tempus sends him warm wishes to Serenity, Amelia's sister, then ends the message. We see Makai in a training room filled with 12 of his clanmates all sparring with him hand to hand. They strategically attack him in teams of 2 at a time or simultaneously, always resulting in an impressive finesse maneuver by Makai, leaving him the last one standing. They repeat this exercise repeatedly, using Makai's combat specialization to sharpen their own skills. Makai, however, is not in a great mood. In fact, Makai is extremely hurt and infuriated by the plundering of the Roaring Dragon ceremonial tomb. Desanctified under his own nose in his own home, it could have been Serenity that went missing. The more he thinks about it, the more power he puts into his strikes and ends up breaking the collarbone of a clanmate he strikes down while screaming out a bloody roar. Waves of blue and black chi emit from his body, blowing past the sparring partners. A giant spirit dragon is subconsciously summoned behind Makai, and with it comes all of the thoughts and mental mumblings of everyone surrounding him, rushing into his mind at once. Is he losing his mind? Our ancestors were stolen. What's with him? I'll be ready for him. I want some smavens. Maybe some kibbles and tips. Makai holds his head and stumbles over to the training room exit, turns around and shouts, "Quiet!" at everyone, then shuts the door behind him. They all look at each other in confusion. Makai walks to his room as wandering thoughts swirl around his mind. A person waits for him by his chambers in the shadows that he barely notices. Makai looks up and recognizes her as Kyrie, an old childhood friend and veteran assassin. She's reading a magazine and holds up the main article and reads it to Makai out loud. Makai Funoichi and William Sinclair, aka The Thriller, have been declared the Dorinthian Men of the Month in this issue of Golden Door magazine for their selfless efforts to clean up the city. You're only half Doran, Makai, and The Thriller's dead. Your people are reaching. She tosses the magazine and walks up to Makai and hands him a bright pink cube of light the size of a stick of gum. It is a data cube containing everything Makai needs to know about Ryan Zaidi, except the most important info: who he is and where is he. Kyrie explains that Ryan Zaidi is a shapeshifter and has never been pinpointed to a specific location. However, that data cube contains info on who hired him. Kyrie makes a face. What does that face mean? Makai asks. Kyrie says, I can't convince you to back down from those who orchestrated the death of your people. But those who hired the assassin are the people you may not want to mess with, Makai. Makai doesn't wait to get into his office and opens up the data cube right then and there. A dozen profiles appear before him, all of elite members of society and Haven's government. They appear that they belong to a secret cult called the Survey Day, but they who orchestrated the assassination call themselves the Emerald Light, a branch of the Survey Day. Makai looks at Kyrie and demands that she disperses multiple bounties on their heads amongst her connects in the assassin network. Kyrie pleads for Makai to think twice or at least to do more research on the Survey Day. Rumor is they own the assassin network. It would get back to them that you're placing a hit out on them, Makai. Makai's eyes glow blue and he commands her again to distribute and set up the bounties. Kyrie complies. We cut to a rooftop inside of a bright and flashy neon-lit district known for its nightlife. We see an android dressed as a mailman holding a metallic box with an Anarchy symbol etched into it. A hologram of Anarchy projects onto the ground, standing before three cloaked mysterious figures. We hear Anarchy XII's voice begin to speak to them and explain to them that the world is changing. Through thorough research, I came to the conclusion that we are all headed for a great planetary crisis, and no matter how competent we both are individually, we will be wiped out if we do not work together. I believe an alliance between us is the best course of action, not to mention mutually beneficial. I have the resources that can help you grow and reach your full potential. Anarchy smiles. And of course, I can benefit from you as well. What do you want to do? The hooded figure in the middle nods its head in agreement. We cut to both groups parting ways. However, it appears one of the three hooded men departs along with Anarchy's mailman android. And though this meeting was supposed to be in secret, someone was watching. We see Tempus looking at the live news feed about the emeralds and knows it is the doing of the cult. It's undeniable at this point. But what really makes Tempus scratch his head is the government conspiracy his students have been sharing around the Gate Center. The conspiracy is that Advocate is the leader of the cult and a New Haven order, and this is the reason for his legalization of chaos. Tempus understands that this could potentially be the result of how the media villainizes Governor Advocate with propaganda, but there may be some merit to this. Either way, Advocate is just as an immediate threat as this cult. Tempus calls and leaves a message for Anarchy XII in an attempt to reach a common ground like they did for the Gamma Fiend. We see a naked and noticeably bruised Anarchy XII submerged in a recovery tank. He is floating calmly, arms folded, with his eyes open, operating machinery technopathically from inside of his tank. We see his eyes rapidly move in every direction as he rearranges floating screens and commences phases of android construction and creation occurring all around him, all with his mind. Anarchy reflects on his recent encounter with Six and the paranormal forces. This then reminds him of all of the other strange occurrences happening in Haven lately. The cult discovery, the disappearance of corpses, the sightings of UFOs, including the one that he captured and has witnessed exiting the sky through a barrier via a gateway. The cult leader pointed to the sky toward a twinkle of something approaching and is even closer, all while these emeralds appearing out of nowhere. Pure chaos. Anarchy connects the dots and uncovers a trending topic about a conspiracy involving the Emerald Prophecy. Prophecy declares the coming of destruction by way of a massive wave of light descending from beyond. However, Haven's government has a special weapon to protect the city from it, but Governor Advocate was put in place by the Survey Day to stop the usage of the weapon, thus spelling destruction for the city. Anarchy scoffs at this conspiracy that is lightly based on fiction because Anarchy learned from the craft that there are solar systems and even more that lies beyond Haven. So a light in the sky will spook any ignorant Havener. Planets, stars, these were concepts never introduced to the public. Yet also, feeling like a regained memory once lost. So familiar. The paranormal is also an unexplored phenomenon. Could it be linked? The android dressed as a mailman drops in front of Anarchy along with the cloaked person. It notifies Anarchy of a successful delivery and then flies off to perform other duties. A brand new king android of the king's hand approaches from the side of the hooded figure and escorts them to Anarchy. Anarchy finishes up getting caught up on the current events. The moonrise miracle, the mysterious mansion blaze, the tournament and the leatherpox outbreak in some disgusting city when suddenly he receives a message from Tempus. Anarchy 12 accepts the video as Tempus's head appears and begins talking. Tempus explains that he feels it's time they compare notes. We have a common enemy in Advocate, and I have information on this cult and the Emerald Prophecy, which sounds nuts, but truth is stranger than fiction, my friend. I think you could make something of this as well. I know you and RType X have a rivalry, but hopefully that can be overcome. I reached out to RType X to get him on board. Tempus then explains to Anarchy the necessity of their alliance in defeating Advocate and the cult, a seemingly rising threat to all of us. I will see that Haven gets pried away from Advocate's grip, Anarchy says. But it's a process and the city will be torn for a while. I'm willing to acknowledge your district, Sector 12, as sovereign in exchange for your help against Advocate and to share info. Anarchy lets the request sink in, closes his eyes, and then turns off the monitor and begins to laugh at the term rivalry, when suddenly an alarm goes off. Anarchy turns to his surveillance cameras and sees that the android mailman was followed by a metallic G-type, the one that was sent by Advocate to retrieve his head, Goliath Mod. Goliath Mod begins firing laser rifle spray at Anarchy's flying base in the sky while evading return fire from the automatic base defenses. Anarchy's eyebrow twitches as he whispers to himself with his weakened voice, "Rivalry of none. I am unrivaled." Suddenly, a magnetic wave is emitted from the king standing outside on the front line of the base's defenses. This wave sends Goliath Mod twirling uncontrollably toward the king, in turn leaving him susceptible to blaster fire from the base. We see Anarchy disengaging from his recovery tank, refreshed, and stepping down from the platform. In the background on the multiple screens and monitors, we see from many angles Goliath Mod getting mangled and ultimately destroyed by the king as it makes short work of him. Anarchy heads into his lab, the door shutting behind him, displaying a giant Anarchy symbol. We see Six releasing Imperator the Savage on countless innocent and not so innocent G-types alike, hunting for dimensional beings to stack his arsenal with. We cut to Six squashing the shrunken body of Trill Billy, then hurling the thriller to his death. We see Anarchy being strangled, then tossed through a vortex. Then we see Officer Whisper being thrown from a lofty height to his death. The trail of death is stirring up the plains and leaving a trail. We see a bald man meditating over dry blood splatter in the ruined apartment of the thriller. Draped in a black robe that's more of a smoke than a fiber laying lightly over his body. His robe, leaving one of his arms exposed, reveals that it is decorated with a black tattoo of a whip that coils around it all the way down to his wrist. his entire body faintly dipping in and out of an ethereal realm. K. McVeigh, the last remnant of an outlawed and exterminated religious cult, the Pioneers, whom he spent his entire childhood with, fell after a militaristic interference that many argue was more of an extermination than a dispersal of the group. A young teenager sheltered and brainwashed for so long by the Pioneers, McVeigh became nomadic and on the run from the antagonistic Hope agents, endlessly wandering from home to home looking for purpose while still closely following the Pioneer ways in secret. Now, as a young adult, K. McVeigh meditates frequently and remains in close touch with the ethereal world accessed by the cult, which deemed them a threat by Hope, the Holistic Office of Paranormal Enforcement. Six's latest rampage has caused a major spiritual disturbance, thus gaining the attention of Hope, as well as K. McVeigh, who has been tracking Six using deep meditation. K. McVeigh digests his vision, begins to clean up the area of any spiritual evidence in turn deterring Hope from following Six's trail. K then heads towards Six's last location, the construction site. K arrives at the site, but somehow, so has the Hope agents. Their priests and officers can be seen casing the outskirts of the construction site. But this was no surprise to K. If it weren't for his own ability to phase into and out of the ethereal realm, he would never escape them. Their ranks are filled with religious zealots and highly trained and experienced ones at that. They were always 12 steps ahead. K follows the trail towards Six, which leads him inside of the construction site as he glides past the Hope agents, mostly undetected, yet still triggering their devices used to pick up on supernatural activity. However, the Pioneers' ethereal movement is nigh impossible to pick up, as that particular realm is farthest from the common plane. K enters the site and sees a massive hole burrowed deep into the depths of the planet. K. McVeigh removes the evidence around the site and muddies up Six's trail, as well as his own, before floating down into the depths of the planet, trailing after Six, his intentions unclear to us. We hear high-powered excavation tools burrowing away through the planet, but slowly begins to die down as we hear less and less activity. We see Six standing blank-faced, literally, in another world, inside the pocket dimension nestled deep into his own consciousness, where he and Deftude congregate. Beside Six stands remnants of Anarchy's Queen and King androids, but as a fused combination of them both, powered and animated by the King of Ghosts. The Queen's entire body, but with the King's massive arms and shield floating above its shoulder blades. The Queen's multiple arms all bound in place by paranormal force. Six gave the King these machines to inhabit by placing a special seal on the android's forehead, making it a suitable vessel. Even going as far as stripping the King of Ghosts of his former title of King, replacing it with the nickname Six came up with, the Dread King. The last worker drops dead from the non-stop digging and lack of oxygen in the cavern. Six snaps back into reality when he hears the digging has stopped. The Dread King informs Six that though the spirits he commands are loyal, their bodies that they inhabit still succumb to the physical limitations and that they need more able bodies before proceeding any further. Six looks around at all the collapsed dead workers. He then commands the Dread King to locate them more bodies then. The Dread King informs Six that it senses living beings nearby. We cut to the Dread King breaking through a cavern wall and into the entrance of a part of Haven City where the sewers drain out into a swamp. A bayou. Many shanties and shacks belonging to the lowest of the low class in Haven City can be seen strewn about, illness of the body and mind and hideous mutations are prevalent and rack those who reside here. G-types with obvious and ugly mutations, and were the first ones to be driven into the underground, never hearing of Tempus's call to the gate center, and likely too sick to get there alive. As Six and the Dread King traversed the bayou, searching for able bodies, they trek past and narrowly avoid dozens and dozens of hideous and demoralizing traps that look to have been set to capture people. But by looks of the bodies mangled inside of the traps, it appears that they were only designed to ruin whatever stepped into it. Six reaches an old and abandoned metro tunnel, long forgotten and undocumented from the city's origins, under the heart of Haven, but deep in absolute darkness. Six begins to shed the blood of homeless and lowlives in the vicinity, when suddenly the Dread King warns Six of a presence. Six's tags begin to glow and vibrate, which then begin to illuminate the darkness, revealing all around them are hundreds of undead ninja assassins clad in Roaring Dragon and Bloodvein clan uniforms. Six looks puzzled at the sight of all his undead relatives, but more so intrigued. What kind of magic is this Dread King? Six asks. The Dread King, familiar with these methods, informs Six that there is another manipulator of souls present. Six says, "Oh, it's my lucky day," when suddenly the sounds of chains can be heard rattling as Ivan Bakara appears sitting on the roof of a beat-down cabin, twirling a shuriken between his fingers. In his other hand, a long chain acting as a leash for a pitiful and scrawny man that currently harbors the soul of Hunter Gulsiv. Ivan chuckles.
I was thinking the same thing, boy. What brings you so deep under Haven, let alone into my part of town?
Six, intrigued by Ivan's look and funny accent, explains that he is here to kill all of his neighbors, but would not be long. Ivan jumps down off of the roof, smiling through his scruffy pepper beard.
There's plenty of neighbors for us both. Make yourself at home.
Six doesn't know what it is about Ivan, but he likes him, and feels he could be useful to his mission, just like the Dread King is. After a long discussion, Six and Ivan determine that they have use for one another and both share what they know. Six tells Ivan of the Dread King's doom prophecy, and Ivan tells Six of Hunter Gulsiv's secret deep under the city where many souls can be sensed. Ivan knows that with the Dread King's dominion over spirits and Six's supernatural knowledge and control over the Dread King, he can build his undead army and remove the so-called green gods in their secret contraption deep under the city, hogging all the spirits. Six knows, with allies like Ivan, he can establish power and secure himself during the doomsday. Ivan and Six agree to make Ivan's lair, the metro tunnels, their base of operations. Ivan's ability to sense and manipulate the raw energy that drives all living beings, also commonly known as life force, soul, will, or spirit, allows him to animate anything with a soul begging for passage and a new lease on life. Together, he and the Dread King possess a fresh army of workers to excavate further and deeper tirelessly. Ivan and Six discuss plans as Hunter Gulsiv leads them, still tethered by Ivan's chains around his neck. It's not long before they reach a large cavern and planted in the center, a gigantic machine with an alien aesthetic can be seen rumbling and beating like a heart. Hundreds of robed cultists can be seen congregating around the machine as thousands of green souls can be seen getting vacuumed into its confines, then recycled and blasted back out to the surface, likely from the cult rituals Tempus had witnessed. Ivan's eyes glow as a large toothy grin emerges from within his beard. Ivan yanks on Hunter Gulsiv's chain,
What is this, some darn secret government machine?
Hunter reveals to Ivan that this ancient device is called the Ichromancer, a gift given to the Servi Dei, granting eternal life so that they may serve them for eternity. Six interrupts. If the green gods can grant eternal life, then why can't they stop the light from approaching and destroying the planet? Hunter Golsiv replies, because they create the light that destroys the planet. Ivan and Six glance at each other. We serve the green gods by helping them fulfill Emerald Prophecy, a ritual designed to engineer the ultimate G-type. We have failed before and were destroyed by the light in our past lives. This is why we were gifted with the Ichromancer, so that we can be reborn, retain our memories, and learn from our scientific mistakes. But this time, we have been successful. I can feel it. Six and Ivan can see how joyous the cultists are as they ramble and incite the dark language around the giant machine off in the distance. Six asks, so your cult are a bunch of slaves who die for your failures only to be returned to try again? Pitiful existence. Ivan laughs.
I can offer eternal life for half of that price. Ain't that right, Hunter? No more of that science mumbo-jumbo around here. You got more important matters to attend to.
Ivan snatches the chain bound to Hunter, yanking him toward him, and places his boot on his neck. Six asks, what makes you so sure of Servi Dei's success this time around? Hunter Golsiv, in pain and with the boot on his neck, points at the emerald that the cultists are peering through. On there, we can see the events taking place on the surface. Hunter says, our ritual is complete. Off in the distance behind Six, Ivan, the undead clansman, and the Dread King, we see Kay McVeigh peer through a rock in his ethereal form, watching and listening. We see Fire, aka Kai Excalibur, submerged in a lake of hot magma inside of his laboratory nestled deep in a volcano. Damaged and beaten, Fire recovers by absorbing the magma into his wounds. Fire is a scientific genius specializing in thermodynamics, physics, and chemistry. The entire volcano has been reverse engineered and made into a self-sufficient and highly advanced facility. Fire's daughter, Rose, can be seen sleeping in her sleeping unit, safe and sound. We cut to an older man sailing his boat off the coast of Fire's volcanic island when suddenly out of the water emerges a giant emerald. The waves, rippling from the massive emerald, which was even larger than the volcano itself, came crashing into the man's boat, destroying it entirely. Mechacopters containing cultists arrive at each of the three largest emeralds floating across Haven, including the one beside Fire's volcanic laboratory. Once above the emerald, they toss out a naked and disoriented G-Type 0 onto the surface of the emerald, then fly off. The emeralds begin to glow, and the sky turns green as clouds begin to swirl. The dark language can be heard chanting from all around Haven City, as thousands of cultists can be seen on the rooftops of buildings, chanting and providing energy to empower the ritual they were conducting, and causing the emeralds to glow even more. Suddenly, all three of the largest emeralds pulsate and blast out a wave of gamma radiation, causing the G-Type laying upon it to mutate in agony. We see the old man responsible for the mass ritual disguised as the Haven's strongest tournament, looking down from the floating arena. He says, 2 of 3. Troubling, but good enough. Finally, we have spawned the ultimate G-types, and now we will be spared. He looks up at the light sparkling in the sky. We cut to one of the 3 ritual G-type victims laying upon the emerald, twisting and turning in agony as his skin begins to morph, as many mouths with sharp teeth begin to appear all over his body. They begin to scream along with him. The second ritual G-type victim looks to be having a seizure, all while losing all color in his body until he lays motionless and appearing to be dead, his body cold and gray. The third ritual G-type victim located on the emerald closest to the island, however, appears to have been a failure and begins to mutate into a blob of magma, but mostly into an abomination as his flesh is melted by the parts of him that turned into magma. He begins to toss and turn in agony, rolling off of the emerald entirely, falling into the ocean. Moments later, it crawls up onto the shore of Fire's volcano lab. The failure of the ritual mutated this man into a half abomination in a giant symbiotic mass of sentient gamma magma. It slithers onto the beach, searching for a host in order to live. It senses Kai Excalibur inside the volcano and makes its way inside. The magma abomination infiltrates Fire's lab by traversing through the lava tunnels and right into Fire's recovery pool. Fire's eyes open wide as he feels a sudden and powerful presence inside of the lava, but before he could react, the symbiotic magma devours Fire and fuses with him by seeping into his body. Kai Excalibur looks down at his own body and hands as he now shares a consciousness with an immense power that is taking a back seat to his mind and body, but providing intense power and ability. Fire has been fused with a sentient magma abomination, making the flame circulating through him feel completely different. The power feels limitless, and his fire burns differently. We see RType X inside of an isolated room within the gate center, meditating. All around him we see his energy clones training hard in combat against one another, practicing ninjutsu. Sitting in RType's lap is the reward he won from the Haven Strongest tournament, the Belt of Fulfillment. RType X is stabilizing his own energy through meditation to prepare for taking on the energy stored within the belt. Flashes of a beautiful woman's face cycle through his mind. He feels many memories associated with love, blood, trust, betrayal, lust, companionship, fear, death, as well as the laughter of a baby echoing throughout his mind. RType X opens his eyes. The fading memory of Zemina shedding tears and kissing him deeply lingers in his mind. He rises to his feet with renewed determination and says, "Time to take this to the next level." RType X absorbs all of his clones and begins to power up, making the entire gate center shake. The aura around RType takes the shape of an unbloomed lotus flower. The massive surge of energy penetrates the belt of fulfillment, causing the gems to relinquish its hold on the cursed energy contained deep inside of it, allowing it to mix and be absorbed by RType X. This major increase in power and potential causes RType X to glow blue as the lotus flower unblooms, revealing yet another layer. The power invigorates RType X, making him let out a mighty shout as the energy from the belt is totally absorbed into him. We immediately cut to the ritual G-types who seem to have become triggered by RType's ascension in power, perhaps a connection with the belt and them. The G-type with a body covered in mouths stands up to his feet and looks into RType's direction. The other ritual G-type who seemed to be dead leans up as well and turns its head toward RType's direction. Fire, in his lab, trying to understand what happened to him, suddenly senses RType's power and gets an undeniable urge to overpower and destroy him, but is able to control it. Fire has never met RType X, but suddenly knows what he looks like and would feel satisfied crushing him. Fire is confused. However, we cut to the other two ritual G-types who both jump down from the emeralds and head straight toward RType X. We see the old man cult leader looking down from the tournament arena through his binoculars, watching the ritual G-types head toward their programmed destination, RType X. We shall see who is worthy of the Green God's acceptance. Thanks for watching Peoplz Dragons, the interactive RPG game show. I encourage everyone to jump into our comment section to participate in the lore contests, as well as visit our Patreon page to learn what perks come with your support for our machine. Peace.